Alright, so what we're talking about today is my work on the 1400 scale Ferengi Marauder. I bought this second or third hand off eBay, and I'm assuming, based on comparing it to other people's builds and other pictures available on the internet, that this is a macro trek kit. It didn't come in a box, and it came pre-painted and finished and kind of damaged and poorly put together. And I'm assuming, based on looking at the parts that this came in, and I took apart some of it so I can tell what pieces were in the kit. Comparing this to, there's only like 2 or 3 other kits. I'm pretty sure this is a Macro Trek kit, and I am suspecting that this might be a recasting because I own a couple of Macro Trek kits. Trying to think, the Nebula Conversion, and I think the Romulan Scout, and maybe a couple others I have. And they have like an unusual type of resin that they use, and their kits all kind of look the same way, sort of. They have this big, bulky, greasy feel, and this unusual resin. And this kit isn't quite like that, but it's similar enough, and there's a lot of defects in it that I'm thinking someone took their kit and then recast it, and then poorly assembled it, because this kit is super, super bad. It's the worst kit I've ever seen. So what I'm doing is, initially, I wanted to light it. And then I was thinking, if I have to do all this work to light, I have to take all these parts out and do all these things, if I can re-engineer enough of the kit, maybe I will make a kit out of it and then consider selling it. Although I've never made a kit, I've only cast things at a very small scale, and I've certainly never sold a kit. And I'm not really interested in making money. What I'm really interested in doing is, one, just developing my skill set so that I can do that, because I'm interested in doing some scratch building. I want to build like a Superstar Destroyer and a few other things at some larger scales, and this is a good practice as far as scratch building. And then besides that, it's frustrating that this kit isn't available anymore, and that it never was available in a lightable version. This kit really isn't lightable at all unless you do a lot of alterations that really just make it a different kit. So if I can make it, and I'm not sure if I have the skill set for it, but assuming I do, if I can make it, then I might cast the pieces and make them available to sell. But it seems really simple to me, but I'm sure there's a lot more complicated features about doing something like that I'm not really aware of. So I don't really want to get anything too heavy. I don't really want to, I'm busy enough. I don't want to take on a whole bunch of extra work or anything like that. So if it's not that complicated to do, and there's not a lot of moving pieces as far as selling it or something, then I guess I'll do it. And I'm thinking about selling it pretty much at whatever cost to make it, because I can't imagine you make very much money off making kits. I think you have to, unless you're like a really big company, Paragraphics, Howling Wolf. Unless you're like a big company like Howling Wolf, a big garage company, you sell lots of kits, I can't see it's really worth your time. So you have to, I would imagine you're selling it for the love of the kit. And if it's not too much work, then I'm going to do that. But what this video is about is the alterations that I made and what I'm doing. So the first stuff is, when you get this, if you remember, all the colors and stuff are kind of weird in this kit. It was painted by the previous owner. But here are, I guess, the flux chiller grills right here. So I cut these out. I haven't cleaned up the edges, but I cut them out just to see where they would go in relation to the weapons pods, the disruptors. So I cut them out, so to take out the last tip, and then a little piece in the back. That should be easy to light. The options are to simply, I wouldn't really recast it because this is so bad, although it could just be really heavy enamel paint. The paint job's really bad too. Whoever built this before me, I've built some bad kits too, so I'm not, maybe it's at the beginning of their model building career. We've all built bad kits. I'm just saying that this is bad. So I can recast this in a clear part, but I still think you wouldn't have much detail, so I think the way to go is to look into getting photo etch made, because I like to get photo etch made for both sides here. I don't think photo etch for here, as I have a different idea for the back. Possibly photo etch for the shuttle bays. And then the other piece, when you flip it over on the bottom, here's the center hole. And on either side, as you see them, they're painted in this gold copper. They're actually supposed to be orange, and they're illuminated. They almost look like landing thrusters or pulsal lifts, but obviously the ship is too big for that. But these are supposed to be illuminated. These will look great with photo etch, and I think these should match, and I haven't done all the research on it. These should match the flux chiller grills as far as the detail. So if I get photo etch for these, I like to get photo etch for this. If I just do this kit just for me, I probably will skip the photo etch. I have no idea what it costs for custom photo etch, but I would imagine, you know, the R&D part of it, even though there's people that can do it on the fly. What is it? Photo Artron. I think he makes a lot of photo etch for people, for individual products, but I haven't really looked into that. So let's see. So I removed that. I'll get to this at the end. These are some kind of impulse engine components of some kind. If you remember the last Outpost and a few other shows it's been in, what I'm going to do is just cut these out, make something that inserts that is clear with some type of detail. I'll see what I can find from the show. And a couple of people have built, one guy built this really large one that's, I mean, it's almost like 3 feet wide, it's so big. From side to side, it's almost 3 feet. But some of his, I've seen his details, some of his details are off. But he, I mean, it's great work. I see the details different than the way he built them. But I like to see what he did for back here. These sort of look like impulse. I like to get some kind of detail on them. And now that I'm talking, I'm looking in close, the detail on these looks like exactly the same as this. It almost looks like a corrugated door, kind of like Voyager's shuttle bay door. It kind of looks like that, or the Enterprise D's main shuttle bay door. It looks kind of like that. It looks like the same. But these are supposed to be some kind of impulse deal right there. So I'm going to cut those out and have a clear part that goes in each one of these. And then what I'm trying to do for the back, I haven't figured out exactly what I'm going to do yet. I see there's a lip that kind of travels all the way around here. And I've cut out, I removed this piece, and it was my first attempt, pretty rough. I removed this piece, I did a lot better job. And then the bottom I cut off, and all the edges are rough. So I don't want to cut this up and rough up the edge. What I want to do is take a casting of this. And then I think I'm going to do is make it in 3 pieces. 1 piece, 2 piece, 3 piece. And I'm going to cast it in clear. And I almost wonder if I do this, should somehow it be attached to this in some capacity. I don't know. But I think the tendency would be to use some kind of photo etch back here, but I don't think that's the way to go. I think the way to go is to cast this right here in one solid piece right here. Let me see if I can zoom this out. Whoop. So this is one solid piece. This is one piece. This is one piece. I've already started to clean up. This was all filled in totally. I've already started cleaning it out a bit. What I think I'm going to do is take some kind of clay, some the oil-based clay that doesn't dry out in the air, and build kind of like a dam around this. And then I'm going to put the silicone on here, and then pull it and see if I can pull a mold of that. And I think that's the best way to go. And then once that comes out and I actually make a piece out of it, and I'm happy with the mold making process, the molds are good, and the pieces, the resin that's coming out is good, then I can cut these out. I don't want to come out until that happens. And after I make the piece, I may want to adjust it in some way to have some type of lip to put it on. And that's what's so interesting. This is what I like about doing this like in the idea of possibly producing a kit. I get to experiment with building things with the purpose of having them assembled, which is actually a totally different way of fixing a model, or making it more accurate. Okay, and so that's same thing over here. And there's nothing really done for all the windows. If I do make photo etch, if I have photo etch made, then I think a window drilling template that comes on the Deep Space Nine non-clear model, or the repop of the Reliant model. I think Paragraphics makes a window template for that because it's missing some windows. Make that for this. That would help with the windows. And then the top, in different shows it does different things, but I'm pretty sure it's just a photon torpedo launcher. When I got it, this was attached, this part was broken off, and this was attached. And by removing it, didn't look, the person who assembled this used green putty. I think that's a Squadron product, which I don't really use myself. But this, I could see where he assembled things, like in here I can see all the green putty. There's no green putty, so I'm pretty sure this was a solid piece into this, although this looked like this was separate because there's plenty of green putty. What I did is I reattached it. I haven't cleaned it up yet. I put a rod in there to strengthen it up, and then this is supposed to be my tab. But if I do cast it, this is going to be my tab. What I want to do, this is one part, this is the second part. And it'll be slightly hollow in the inside, so that you can, and this part will be clear. Either this whole part, I'm trying to figure out, I want to make a clear insert, just a small clear insert for this. The point being, you're going to be able to put some type of LEDs or SMDs up here so you can light this up, and it'll be hollow so you can put your lighting in there. So there's that. So the bottom part, let's go here. What leads me to think that this is a recasting. Someone took Macrocheck's work and recasted it. There's all these mistakes in here, and when you put this in here, right up in here, this all sets so high, and I'm thinking the part just warped, which is common with resin kits. That's not a big deal, but it fits so bad that I don't think it just warped. And this part is supposed to be slightly concave. It rolls in, and that's pretty accurate, although it's kind of all wonky. And then this part sat so high that I had to sand it down and remove a lot of the detail. It was so bad that I don't think that was a warping issue. I think it was a recasting issue. Someone recasted it. And the real thing is, inside here, there's nothing but weird little tidbits. So you can see where someone sort of like recasted it. I don't really like Macrocheck's kits very much. I just don't like them. But their stuff doesn't look like this. I mean, I've only seen a few of them, but I've never seen one like this, so I can't imagine it's their stuff. And you can see, I'm trying to find some bubbles. I don't really see any. I just see a lot of weird casting issues. And inside here, goes up here, this trench that goes around, I've already removed it, but if you look at this side right here, you can see all these weird details, almost like a Death Star trench kind of thing in here. Maybe I can clean it up a little bit. There's no, I mean, it's not really detail. I mean, it is detail, but it's like someone just carved it with like an ink pen or something. It's crazy. And I've seen Macrocheck stuff. It's pretty sharp stuff, man. I mean, they use some weird resin, and the stuff's from the 90s, so it's kind of weird, but it's not crap. I mean, this is all crap. And all the stuff that's so bad in here, that's what was all in here. I removed all that. And I'll show you what I'm going to do for that afterwards. And the other thing, too, is a lot of this kit isn't symmetrical. And that's what makes me think that maybe it's not only is it not a recast of Macrocheck, maybe someone just maybe they just did a one-off, someone made their own kit. But the only thing that, because the stuff is just not symmetrical at all, some of the stuff's really off, it's weird. But what makes me think it is a Macrocheck kit is all the parts that come in this kit correspond to the parts that I've seen other people do reviews. If you look at Bad Grendel's review of a kit like this that he has, all the parts that he has are the parts that I have. When I disassemble it, I can see where it came from. So I don't exactly understand what happened with it. But continuing on, in the kit that these parts right here attached to this. This was one solid piece. In the version that I'm going to make, these are separate pieces. They're going to be cast in clear, possibly a photo etch. This is going to be one piece right here. I'm thinking about removing, well, I have to because the details are so bad, but removing all these and maybe even casting them in clear. They're not lit up in any of the shows that I've seen, but I think that would be a cool option. I kind of was thinking about doing it, so it would be a cool option. If you didn't want to lit in clear, you just paint them. And the details are so bad that it has to be fixed. A lot of this has to be cleaned up and redone. Some of the stuff in here, I've already removed a lot of the detail. A lot of the stuff in here, I mean, what's good about this is the general shape, but all the details have to be redone. So all this stuff is really bad in here. And then we move to the neck. And in the neck, this is where the shuttle, sometimes called a fighter, goes. Let me pull that out. So you can see the Death Star trench that I've removed. And what I'm going to do is take all that out, because it's all bad. And what I did is I cut up various parts of... Where is it? That's what I have me left. Maybe I didn't. There we go. A Y-wing engine pod that I bought on clearance a long time ago. It's a snap kit and I really didn't like it. So I cut it up in various parts in about the correct width. not just for this application, but this is nice to have greeblies for the future. I made a quick mold of it, so now I can cast these parts up, and if you have so many different ones, which obviously there's enough different textures in there and shapes, that I can alternate them and you're not going to see a pattern. I do it for the bottom, and it goes on the top here. And then for other projects in the future, it's always nice to have a little bit of greeblies. And what's good about this is the Death Star right there, or the board cube. I do need some variation and detail. It's all kind of the same stuff. So these little bits right here can be used to add some more detail to that. Okay, so that's done. Let's see, and this is the bottom. When I cut this out, the only way I use just let me show you. Straight saw, and I went past it, which is fine. Then I used my drill to mark the spot. I drilled through, went through the bottom, and then I ground through till I could see my cut mark. And then I was able to pop it out. It came out really good, pretty clean, surprisingly. All right, to the head, you can see I've already added some of the detail that's missing. And the problem is this is two pieces, but it was when I got it, it was all broken. You can see I put some what do you call it? You know, the sculpting epoxy, the two-part epoxy. I put that in there. And what I want to do is cast this in two parts, and it's going to be not quite hollow, but as hollow as it can be. And then these are going to be clear inserts here. And that's it. There's a lot of cleanup. You can see all this junk that's in there. And the next thing is the weapons pod. So on this ship, they use disruptors, and they go right here. And most of the kits that I've seen, they, you know, like the Eagle Moss stuff and the Futrar stuff, and what do you call them? Even the Adversary kit, they have different variations, and none of it's quite that accurate. From what I can see from the different episodes, and there was a CG model that was used in the Deep Space Nine episodes versus a physical model used in the Next Generation episodes. There are pods that go. There's the pods, and they go right here at an angle, but the bottom of it sticks out below, kind of like this. And the detail does have three little thingies like that, and there's some type of round thing in the middle, and it's some kind of forked. And the fork looks different in different shots. Sometimes it looks like it's curved, sometimes it looks like it's more geometrical. And what I can tell is the pods themselves look like they're separate from the ship, like this. Is here, it looks separate, it doesn't look integrated. It's separate like this, but it's also at an, if this is the ship like this, it's at an angle like this, as these are in this kit. It came at an angle. And the original piece, I mean, I've totally changed it all. This is the original bottom, and I still have to do some changes. I totally removed the top. The top was really bad. Trying to think what else. So this side goes right here, and it's designed to go just about like this, give or take. It still has to be cleaned up a little bit to get in there, and some more detail in here. And then it's very clear in several of the last Outpost episodes or shots that right here, and maybe here too, it's illuminated in orange. The same orange here is right here. In some shot it looks like there's two, but it's actually just the corner of this. But it looks like there's a light that goes right here and right here. I've never seen one illuminate that. I looked through a lot of the screen stills, and it's pretty clear that it is lit up right there. So what I plan on doing is casting this in two parts, or maybe one with this hollow right here. And you have to run wires to this anyway. And then, I don't have it here, there are no good shots of the side of this that show, so some of the stuff has to be kind of, you have to fake the funk a little bit. But for this is what I plan on doing right here. This is going to be a separate piece, cast and clear, so if you choose not to illuminate it, because I've never seen anyone do it, so I would assume a lot of people would disagree with the fact that it's supposed to be lit, so that way you have an option. If you don't want it lit, you paint it over the whole color. You don't have to have it illuminated. But if you choose to, it'll be clear. Or it'll be hollow in here. This will be clear, and I want to see what I can do. Do a little more research. It looks to me like there's a clear glow that goes, like there's a little bit of a gap, and there's a glow in here. So more greeblies would have to be put in there. There's not a whole lot of room. This is the top, and that's the bottom, that's that. And it's going to be just the reverse for the other side. And then for the, you get the two pieces. Oop. I just dropped it. I just knocked off the bottom of it. So there's a small triangle piece that holds on the weapons pod. Here's where I just built it from scratch. I just knocked off the bottom one, but luckily I just pulled this out of the mold, so I have a copy of it. And here, what I have is landing gear for a 747. I think it's a 144 scale. And this actually right here is the impulse crystal for the refit Constitution, the 12500 scale. And what that does, this sets right here. This is actually the top part, and that's the bottom. There's supposed to be another piece right here. I just knocked it off as we're on camera. That sets right there. This is going to be a separate piece. This is going to be cast in solid, not clear resin. And then the weapons pod goes right here. It fits right on, and it slides inside here, but I just knocked that piece off. It would slide right in here. So this would be, this might be in clear, or it might be a two-part solid with a clear on the outside. And then this is going to be solid. Then here's the weapons pod. I did a bunch of research. In different shots they look different, and the problem is the majority of the pictures you see are other people's builds, so it's kind of hard. And what looks kind of funky about this, the side profile is correct, the shape is correct. What looks a little weird is you see those ribs in there that looks kind of like, you know what, I'd make a leaf. But all this is this is made out of epoxy sculpt. I sculpted epoxy sculpt, sanded, got the shape right, made half a shape, then turned it over, did the other side so it's symmetrical, so it matches up both sides. And what you see on top is styrene that's been glued to it, and then it's been sanded down so it doesn't touch the edges, tapered. I thought it looked way too plain without it. A lot of the pictures I saw showed variation of detail, a bunch of different stuff. I'm not totally thrilled with this. I think it's much better than leaving it plain. But what's really cool about it, if you don't like this, you can just sand off this detail. That's fine. But I just didn't like how plain it was. In some of the shots, it looked like there was some type of ribbing. And it's really hard because, I mean, a lot of it just, because you have to magnify this part of the model, or the studio model. And there's a lot of shadow play and stuff like that. And a lot of it's done with paint. And then the bottom, I've removed the detail on the bottom because this is going to be cast and clear. And I did a cast of this part. I haven't done this part. There's going to be minor detail, not much here. But it's even at plain, I think, is a mistake. And speaking of that, so the first one, Greeblies, got the mold of that. Of the weapons pod, the disruptor pod, here it is right here. So later tonight, I'm gonna pour some clear in here, let that dry, build it up, and do. Well, first I have to do the detail. Once the detail is done, then I'll do the mold in the back. So it's a two-part mold. And then here is the part that I just broke on camera. Here's the mold of this one. The problem is I used just too small of a container. It got too close to the side. So a lot of the mold came off, so this isn't the best fit. So I'm going to have to find the piece that I just dropped, or see if I can cast it up in here and cobble it together and clean this up, because this is just so dirty in here. There's too much. Because what I did is I glued it down like this, and I lost a lot of detail doing that. I should have put it on a pedestal of some kind, lifted it up a little bit, and then done it, because it got too close to the detail. I don't think it's going to turn out very good. And then the weapons pod right here. Here it is. This is a copy of it, and I want to use this to make a copy for the other side. And then as I figure out where I'm going to put the lights in here, that's how I'll figure out I'll make a true piece, and that's what I'll cut it in half, or however it's going to be done, and that's when I'll make a production mold. The scout ship, I've done a little bit of work adding some details that was missing, but what has to happen is the top has to be one piece. The tail has to be one piece. This is obviously the engine right here. These are, I guess, flux chiller grills. This has to be done in clear. So this whole thing is in solid, in non-transparent. This will be in clear. Separate piece in clear. These will be inserts in clear. The bottom will be in this kit, the one that I bought. This was one piece, but I'm gonna make it so this whole thing, you can take off the whole thing, so you can get inside here. The only other option would be two pieces, one piece, two piece, but it's made in clear. I don't know if I like that too much. and when I got it was all damaged, so I fixed some of that. And I think that's it. It's basically cleanup and working the fine details and going back and forth to the last outpost and a few of the episodes and fixing everything that's wrong with it. That's where it stands for now. Thanks for watching.